This is part one of a two-part podcast.
Hi, this is Mark. There are a lot of reasons to get angry these days, but I prefer to focus on the positive things that we each can do to make this world a better place. The book, Building a Better World in Your Backyard, Instead of Being Angry at Bad Guys, is a great resource for just that. Instead of throwing my arms up in frustration at governments or big corporations, there's a list of ideas that we each can tackle to affect change. Information about this book and other resources can be found at permies.com.
All right, the numbers are counting down. It's happening. Steven's here with me. Steven, hi.
Hi there, Paul.
So, is that a cackle? Okay. So, today we're going to talk about, there's a long list, but the thing I'd like to get to eventually, which might end up being at the bottom of the list, is like, what do we want to have happen here? And what does it look like? What are the things that we want to end up with? Where are we going? What's our direction? And yesterday we were kind of talking about recording this, and I kind of thought maybe before we record that, we need to record like 4 hours of podcasts about words that are more about personal growth than about, and I was saying something weird about how I don't think I've called anybody an asshole in at least 12 years. But I think it has to do with my own personal shift and what it means and why the word would ever be used. And
well, I remember you saying that if you find somebody who calls somebody else an asshole, then it's more of a reflection on the person who says the word.
The person with asshole on their lips?
The person with asshole on their lips. And they don't even know it. No. But the idea that they're using that word to articulate their thoughts and or judgments about another person.
Right. I mean, I think what they're doing is they're expressing a difference of standards and values. And so that person's an asshole really translates into that person has different standards and values than I do, and it's making me angry because I want that person to be obedient to my whim, not living a life that is deviating from my whim, which I don't even live by my whim generally. But I kind of feel like, you know, I think I appreciate it when people point at me and say asshole, because it's like, you know, well, it's good to have our relationship defined. Thank you. And of course, it goes without saying that it's reflective. You know, anybody pointing at me and saying asshole is like, I don't think a lot of them either. I think that their values are indeed different from mine. And so rather than making a 4-hour-long podcast about philosophies and difference of value set and stuff, I think let's jump right in and talk about what is our value set. And the way that we can talk about our value set is with I guess you could say our dreams, but it's more like what we aspire to, what we want. It's okay to want things, want away. And so here we are wanting. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, part of it is, too, we've come a long ways. I mean, you saw that video that I made, I don't know, was it a month or two ago?
The transformation from when you first bought the Basecamp property and to what it looks like right now.
Yeah. So when I was here, I was taking video of what I was seeing to share with others. And I was looking at this property for the very first time, and this is Basecamp. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I already owned the lab with its beautiful, deep alluvial soils. And it's like I wanted to find someplace on the grid nearby, and this was the nearest property available for sale near the lab. And but this property is one giant rock, and so the video kind of shows the before from when I took the video the day I was looking at the property and the after. So I think the video was taken in May, like mid-May here. So the growies are just kind of starting to kick into gear. But it was almost the same day in May years ago when I took the video, the first video. And it was clear that like the growies in the neighboring land was about the same, but the growies here 12 years ago were, I would say sparse is an understatement. Like sparse to the level of sparse. Like things.
It was barely grass out there.
There were like.
It was like, and it was like the brown stringy grass. It wasn't, it wasn't even what, typical folks would consider a lawn.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, what the heck is going on?
They called it lawn. And those were grasses growing there, but it was clearly sand and rock, and the sand or the grass was not making it. It was, and weeds were suffering. There was
lawn is a very generous, charitable way to describe what was out there.
Yeah,
and, people could take a look at that video for themselves and they'll realize, there's barely anything growing on there. It's ridiculous how little was going to be cultivated land unless you did something to it.
And we did. We built some rather substantial hugelkulturs, and now it's like a jungle out there where it was nothing. But
it feels humid in spots. It's crazy. You talked about like we would set up the sprinklers or whatever. We'd be out there watering with a hose or something, and you walk around that corner of the house, and you're like, whoa, it's like there's a cool breeze, and then all of a sudden the sun hits you, and it's humid, and it's like and the ground around you is moist. So
it can be 95 outside, but it feels 75 through that little canyon there.
You go with that little curve, and it's a little slice of heaven this time of year for sure.
And we keep having to hack it back to get through there. It's turning into quite the jungle.
Yeah, the wild roses have gone wild, and the comfrey is grabbing you. I think you go around that corner.
The big one I've been cutting back is the apple trees. Because they're all started from seed, and there's, a dozen of them there, and it's hard to get through all the apple trees. But we've got full gardens and full polycultures. All I'm saying is we've come a long ways. Yeah. There's a lot here. We have, I think we counted it up, we've got 41 rockety contraptions that we've built here. And there's a lot of bunks. I think an important thing is, and you and I have talked about this in podcasts before, we have stuck to our values. Speaking of values, and I'm glad we did. And there's been once in a long while somebody comes and they kind of are very angry that we need to change our values, and they seem to choose to go down the road on their own when we don't change our values. And a lot of times they're like, why don't you allow pot? You got to explain it to me. You got to justify it to me. And it's like, I just don't. And in fact, I'm even tired of talking about it. I just don't want to. And I've had this conversation with you a couple of times, and I kind of think you're in the same boat. Like, you know what? I'm just a pass. I'm just going to pass.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, hey, there are plenty of places out there. Missoula has dispensaries every 500 feet.
Yeah.
Why don't you just hang out there? And there's plenty of places in the world that are accommodating to those sets of values. This is not one of those places. We have different values. And if you don't like it, there's plenty of ways to change the channel and hit the road.
And another one is I like our values for doing things, for getting stuff done, for moving forward. Although I gotta say, and I'm not sure if we've ever said this in a podcast before, but I like the thing that you described the other day. You said, like, when a new boot shows up, you want to get a 50-pound sack of oats.
Yeah, can I describe this?
Sure, do it.
All right, so I'm working with this idea. People have called me a unicorn because of my particular set of circumstances and, how I'm able to be here and take advantage of this and so on. So I'm like, what do unicorns eat? Well, I'm sure they could eat oats. So let's work with that. And so I explained this thing to Paul. I was like, on day one for boots, I want to bring out one of our 50-pound bags of rolled oats and set it on the table. And I'll say, all right, here's the challenge. We need to eat this bag of oats every single day. And magically, at the end of the day, midnight rolls around, the bag fills back up full of oats. And so all those oats need to be eaten. I sure hope you like them. And the thing is, for a brand new boot on day one, Monday morning, we are asking you to eat a teaspoon. That's all we need you to eat. All right. Of course, you see all the rest of the oats that need to be eaten. But that's Paul, that's Stephen, that's other boots that have been here for a while, even Fred, who's not officially a boot. He will step up and he will eat some oats. And eventually, the whole bag of oats is going to be eaten by the end of the day, by hook or by crook. But as time goes on, you'll realize, hey, eating a teaspoon of oats is not difficult at all. In fact, maybe I'll graduate to a tablespoon or a couple, and eventually you gain the capability, again, to stick with this metaphor, you gain the capability to eat more oats than you even dreamed were possible. Right. And you become a crucial component to this oat-eating machine that is Wheaton Labs, and you end up becoming one of the unicorns without even knowing it.
So we call it the boot camp, but at no point, I think we call it the boot camp because we got a little weary of becoming a place for. We used to call it something else, and then a lot of the people that showed up kind of thought they were coming to a resort or something, and they wished to be catered. And they seemed to find pleasure in watching me bring in the firewood and build the fire in the winter to keep them warm. And so by calling it the boot camp, I think that solved a lot of our problems. However, it's nothing like boot camp in the way of like, hup, 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 get to work, get to work, get to work. I think it's really the opposite. I think we make it absolutely delightful and easy for the first couple of weeks. In fact, I think the whole time anybody's in the boot camp, entirely, 100% of the time, expectations are extremely low. And I think that what happens is somewhere around the second or third week, people start to do more per day just because doing less per day becomes boring. Mm-hmm. They kind of got the lay of the land. They're kind of moving on. And I've seen some people show up and on day one, man, they get a lot done. Like they want to do it all on day one. And it's like, hats off to you, man. That was amazing. And so, but there's people where it's no pressure. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, I'm going to say month 5, when somebody's been here 5 months, they're getting, I'm going to guess, 6 or 7 times more done per day than the Friday of the first week. And it has nothing to do with anybody cracking a whip or burp, like yar, get yar.
It's about aptitude. You become used to the routine or the systems and where everything, even where the tools are stored.
The joy sets in.
Yeah.
It's just the sheer joy of doing this. This is, and if you're here in 5 months, it's probably something that feeds your soul in a big way. And so it's turned out to be a fit. And so it's good stuff, great stuff. And so, all right. Well, as long as we're on this path, there's the stuff that we have said in the past to boots on their very first day. And you mentioned this new thing that you want to say. I'm going to cover the 2 things we've been saying for the last year or 2. Mm-hmm. The first one being 95% of the things that the boots do are for the current boots and the future boots. There's been even a little bit of cooking, provided it's all coming from the garden.
Yeah.
And then, but a lot of canning, a lot of food preservation.
Yep.
Doing a lot of that. Soil building stuff, planting. We've put a lot of new trees in that were not from seed, but we want to get that genetics in here. Raspberries, a lot of raspberries this year.
This year in particular.
Grapes.
This is the first year.
Strawberries.
This is the first year I've seen grapes growing.
Oh man, that one grape is just going hog wild, and so we got that one huge apricot tree from Pitt, and I cannot find any apricots now. There were like 20 apricots, but I can't seem to find any on it now. But I'm sure that they'll turn golden later, and then look, there they are. And so, but I haven't seen any apricots on any of the other apricot trees. We're going to have a massive bumper crop of plums this year.
Well, yeah, and there's a plum tree out like in the middle of horseradish berm, facing the vehicles.
Covered in plums. Somebody pointed at a plum tree out back across from Captain Obvious and said, "Is that an olive tree?" And I kind of gave him shit. I said, I said, well, let's take a close look at that particular plum tree because it's like let's see if it's an olive tree. And I was like, you got a couple of indicators here, but look, here's the prime indicator. And it took them a minute until they could see what I was pointing at. The label on the tree. So that's a transplant, a Frankenstein tree, and it says plum. And it's like, that's how you can tell it's a plum tree, because it's got a little sign on it that says plum. So, but yeah, no, I don't think, and I explained olives aren't going to survive here. And,
just not the right climate for that.
Yeah.
Those winters are tough.
95% of all the work that a boot does is for current boots or future boots. There's no profit model here. It's a shitty school, and some people have said that it's a school. Last year we had some boots saying it's an excellent school, but I'm worried that if we say that, there's going to be some expectations we cannot meet. And so I say it's a shitty school, but there's no, I don't know. I do think that sometimes we need to repair something, and we call that more like homesteading, but which I still think fits in the boot camp. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm gonna reserve that last 5%, and but I think we've had some boots where we've asked, and they said 100% of the time is spent for current boots and future boots. But I think I want to hang on to that last 5% so that just in case we have a thing.
Gives you some wiggle room.
Yeah.
Now, for the record, I would say that I did give the repair guy for Judy a jar of the rhubarb jam that we canned as a thank you. But that should let you know, listener, the gravity of the fact that, wow, Judy's actually running again. It's a very important vehicle to us. We get a lot done with that vehicle. There are many things that would not be possible without Judy running. And I wanted to show Charlie our gratitude for bringing that vehicle up and running. And sure, he billed you. He billed you.
Yeah, I got to pay for that.
But I handed over that jar of like, man, do you like rhubarb jam? And he's like, oh, fuck yeah. so I was like, here you go. This is all yours. We made it last week. Enjoy it. He's like, oh yeah, rhubarb jam on sourdough. I'm all about it. So he really appreciated it.
Nice.
And I think that, that's going to help continue to grow that relationship. Of course, I don't think Judy needs any repairs anytime soon. But that was me knocking on wood as I said that. But he's a good, solid guy, a really excellent craftsman. He's a stand-up guy, and I wanted to let him know that we appreciated his effort.
Speaking of truck. Mm-hmm. We've had Roy for, I think, a year now.
Oh, yeah.
A little more than a year.
Yeah. I was going to tell you about the vehicle registration coming up. So
I got a reminder card. I got to go pay for that. I got to get it taken care of. But, another...
Roy is a smooth ride. I usually take Roy into Missoula for doing errands and stuff like that over the weekend because I can fit my bicycle on the back. So Roy has been a wonderful addition to the fleet, and of course, very, very much appreciate the benefactor for dropping that in our lap.
It has been so nice to have such a reliable vehicle, and some could argue that Ford isn't very reliable, but man, it's a lot more reliable than what we had before. And so it's nice to be able to have a vehicle that's like every time we go to use it, we're like, okay, we got to go up to the lab and do a thing, and
done.
Yeah, don't even think about it. It's you're just going. And it used to be that we'd have Ranger Doug, and Ranger Doug, it's like you could get to that little hill going up to the lab, and the Ranger Doug would be like wheezing by the time we got to the top, if we made it.
Well, that was 200 and something thousand miles.
Yeah.
We just broke 10 with Roy, so hey,
Hey, this is T. Blankenship. Are you a fan of pie? Where there's pie at Permies.com. This pie grants the user secret access. You also get free things like videos of Wheaton Labs, the ability to add 2 thumbs up to posts, and more. To get pie, go to Permies.com/pie to get the inside scoop of what pie can do for you. Again, that is Permies.com/pie.
All right, so first day for the new boots. 95% of all the work that people do is for the current boots and future boots. Yeah. The second thing that we've always said for the last year is go with the flow. For the first 2 weeks, go with the flow. And that's because we've had some people here in the past that feel like, and in fact, one that sticks in my mind is they were angry about the willow feeders because the willow feeders are not being the humanure system. They're not a perfect match for the humanure system. And they'd read the humanure book. And therefore, what we were doing was wrong, and everybody needed to stop right now and start doing it the right way. And so we've had a couple of instances like that. And so now what we do, and this is one of Dez's things when he was the high commander that he did, is like, please go with the flow for the first 2 weeks. Glad to talk about it to the ends of the earth at lunch and dinner and breakfast and all those kinds of things. But, during the boot day, kind of go with the flow.
Sure.
And so, and then we kind of you and I sat down and we tried to think of like, are there other first day things? Because we were visiting with a lovely, lovely boot who her time was up and she needed to go on to her next adventure. She had plane tickets and all kinds of things, and she had a schedule to keep. And so off she goes, and we were visiting with her, and we came up with some ideas about new things to add for the first day. And she mentioned specifically autonomy, and I wrote down here, boots can, in time, work on their own project. And so I think a great example is Josiah working on the greenhouse. I don't think he'd even been here a year yet when he asked about building the greenhouse project. And so, sure, turned it over to him, and he ran point on it, and I think he did an excellent job.
Oh, yeah.
But it was after, and there were some other projects that he ran point on for a while that were smaller projects, but I think we're pretty good at autonomy, and I think that, but yeah, if somebody's only here for, I don't know, I think we've had some people that have been here for only like a month, and we turned the project over to them, and I don't know, I think we're generally pretty good about that. But we kind of need to get to the point of feeling like yeah, they're ready. They would do well with that, and as opposed to like somebody shows up and they don't know what they're doing, and now you're in charge of a project. That's probably not so great.
Yeah. So, and I remember mentioning to you the idea that there's the 30 days. My 30 days is my first milestone for brand new boots. After they make 30 days, they can drive our vehicles around, and most importantly, along this line of thinking, they can become the point person for a project. So, it is your responsibility and my responsibility to figure out, okay, what's the level of aptitude aptitude that this person has in a certain thing, whether it's gardening, whether it is building stuff, fixing stuff, or so on. Have they demonstrated that they have a certain level of aptitude or enthusiasm or gusto, whatever is needed to do the job that is on the table? Maybe they're very good at being like a social person. I remember last summer we had a person who was the concierge for all the people at the summer events. And we're like, yep, she's the concierge. She has like these excellent like customer service skills, for example.
Yeah.
And she was a great liaison between the guests from the event and me. So like if there was something that needed to be done, I could fit it into the boot tasks. And that's just another example of a certain set of skills. A very particular set of skills that can be applied in that type of way. Like this person is a great point person for X, Y, Z. And again, that's the responsibility that you and I have in helping the team, like exercise that autonomy that they want, but also helping fulfill, the boot tasks and the mission of Wheaton Labs and the stuff that goes on here.
I did get a sense that there was a desire for there to be like more.
Sure.
I want the boot camp to have more superstars and more, and I'm kind of thinking like I'm glad to bring in experts and have them here for a week or two at a time, and we've done it in the past. Mm-hmm. But when I have done it, it was it was basically funded by a Kickstarter, and right now my Kickstarter is flopping hard, and it looks like it won't get funded. It'll be my first ever Kickstarter not getting funded.
You have several weeks to go. It
doesn't look good. It has slowed way down. It has pretty much stopped, and so it doesn't look like it's going to make it. But yeah, we got weeks to go. We'll see what happens.
A lot can happen. I mean, speaking as the high commander of the boots.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot can happen, even in a single week. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Last item for first day for new boots is, for the first 2 weeks, we actually literally ask people to take 5 a lot. Just sit down for 5 minutes. It's all good. It's all cool. You don't have to keep up with that guy over there who's like turning it into an exercise routine. It's like, no, don't look over there. Don't look at that guy. So, but that's okay. So that's the stuff. I do want to say that we are officially making a shift in a couple of interesting places that have to do with the boot camp, and this kind of relates to what we're going to here in a bit. But to gain access to Ant Village or Deep Roots, it used to be, when I originally offered these programs, it was like to people who've listened to all of my podcasts, which at the time was like less than 200. And then eventually it grew to be like, 200. But then we had people that were like tolerating the podcast at double speed rather than like wanting the information that was in them. And it was like, okay, that didn't quite work out. Then we bandied around ideas about having read the Better World book and maybe the Thorns book and things like that. And I thought that was pretty good. That wasn't bad. But you and I had a conversation about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and you said something like, I want them, for anybody like that, I don't care about the books, I don't care about the podcasts, I don't want them to be renting a plot at Ant Village or buying Deep Roots or, and moving up there and doing stuff until they've spent 6 months in the boot camp starting in May. Mm-hmm. Like starting with the first Sunday in May and 6 months. And then it's like...
And through the month of October. So for the record, and I'm not going to dwell on this, Paul, I promise you that, I would say that June 2025 was probably my roughest month here. There were a lot of things that were seen as challenges for the boot team during that month. And I'm glad we made it through. Yeah. and you know, I learned and grew a lot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then you approached me with, because the question of, why isn't the boot camp full? Why, it was on your mind once again. And it comes back to this lack of understanding of the values, or a lack of a matchup of values. And I also think that was one of the root problems with that month in particular. And I was like, these people, will say one thing, and they will do another. They talk a good game, and they don't follow through for one reason or another. Secondly, life happens, and things change in people's lives, and they have to step back, or they have to go away for a while, and then they'll say they'll come back, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. But the point I was trying to make was that in order for us to be secure with somebody who's going to be here for a long time, then they need to be a good fit. It's not just about them plunking the cash in front of you. Now, again, I also qualified that, that's a lot of money that could be very, very useful, Kickstarter issues aside. So I really didn't feel qualified being the person to draw the line on there, but you and I had discussed that, and you seemed pretty comfortable with that with that arrangement.
One way of describing it is, for every person that I've met that says, I would never use herbicides, and they authentically never use herbicides, I have met a dozen people who say, I would never use herbicides. Never. Except, of course, when I do. And and it's like, so it's kind of like, all right, we would, our values are we would never use herbicides. And so I think I'm reading your mind now and thinking about a person who was like, I would never use herbicides. And then there they are using herbicides. And it's like, they didn't use herbicides here, but there were things that they did. I would never do this thing. And then they're doing that very thing. And it's like, yeah, but and it's kind of like, and I kind of feel like we talked about that a little bit in the last podcast, which you weren't there for, but, and it was, when somebody's got a quarter of an acre, the decisions that they make about being organic, they have strict organic standards, and they adhere to them. But then you give that person 10 acres, and somebody's whispering over their shoulder that they've got some kind of noxious weed or something like that, and you got to get rid of it or whatever. They're thinking like, I can't pull all of that. I can't.
Okay, so just this once.
Yeah.
I got to bend on it.
And then they use really twisted phrases like, well, there's nothing else I can do. And it's like, wow, I wonder what the people 500 years ago did before that. And it's like, what did they do? So there's plenty you can do, but anyway, it's about values, really. And it's kind of like, but yeah, I agree with your analysis. With 6 months in the boot camp, then it kind of shakes out. We kind of find out. If somebody says, I would never, and then there they are doing it, it's kind of like, I think we learned a lot about that person.
And to clarify the whole time of the year kind of thing, I wanted it to be the first week of May until the end of October, because that's essentially one growing season. I mean, there's prep work that happens before that, and then there's some preservation stuff or some last minute harvesting that happens even in November, or in the case of sunchokes, up until the following year. But in general, the bulk of caring for the land, cultivating the food, harvesting it, preserving it, and whether it's canning or otherwise, that's when most of that stuff happens. It also is the hottest part of the year, and people need to learn how to use snake juice. They need to learn how to monitor the water system here. So those are the kinds of things that they'll pick up in those 6 months. Now, did you want to mention anything about if it's not during the 6 month, those 6 months in particular?
Right, we've got some variations that we're going to do, but I think when Ant Village had its heyday, it was before you arrived, and and then of course the idea with Ant Village is that you prove to yourself whether you're an ant or a grasshopper, and not only did a lot of people discover the grasshopper within them, and some of them were here for months and they really did next to nothing, and that's like when you're in Ant Village, that's totally cool. You don't have to do anything. But I think a big part of why they didn't do anything is because they didn't know how. Yeah. And they were sure it would be easy and that they'd figure it out on the way and stuff like that. But then in the end, it's a daunting task. And the thing that is unfortunate is that several of them decided that the solution is that they are, of course, perfect and flawless in every way, and that it's Paul Wheaton's fault. That motherfucker something, and if it wasn't for him, then something.
I wouldn't be in this mess.
So, okay, I don't really appreciate that, but there was a fair bit, and some of them got a lot of stuff done, and some of them got really nothing done, and then, but I think each and every one of them found that they were good at some things and not as good at other things, and but I do think that when winter was rolling around, they started to rise to the challenge, but most of them decided to go, and it's like I understand, I really understand, and so all right, fair enough. I do feel like at least if you go with the boot camp, then by the time that you get that ant plot, your probability of success is way higher. So I think it's a good, solid path, and I'd like to see more people make that leap, and it's like, and I like this idea of shift, so that way when people do it, then it's now the other thing is that currently, like you've been harvesting the bell thread stuff, and so
that's right. Yeah, this is a good thing to mention.
Yeah,
good.
And so you make a thread, you post some pictures, and then after 100 posts with pictures of showing projects and stuff, then you get a certain percentage of whatever's in the pot, which I think is now way bigger because I think everything that is in the Bell thread or in the Bell fund is in Ethereum. And my understanding is Ethereum has had a really good month.
It's on the come up.
Yeah.
I noticed that myself.
Oh, did you? I haven't been watching.
I think this month or the past couple months have been different because I'm focusing more on financial goals. But up until very recently, I would receive the Ethereum and then I would cash it out in US dollars immediately. This time around, I decided to do something a little different. So every Wednesday and every Friday, I look at the the current value, and I'm like, will this fund my travels in January and February? Not quite yet. So those are the things that I look into. But,
cool.
So I used to knee jerk be like, forget this crypto stuff. But nowadays I have broadened my perspective, I would say.
All right. So I would say that if a person was to do the Bell Fund stuff or the Bell Thread stuff, that they'd easily come up with the funds to get that acre.
That covers the rental fees that you were talking about.
Yeah, a deposit and then the rent.
Thank you. Yeah.
And but I am thinking about digging into the Ant Village rent and maybe possibly making it a little less, at least to get started, and to sweeten this path a little bit. Maybe like for the first 6 ants that do it or something, but that's coming soon. And so all right, I kind of, let's see,
Paul's looking at his
I'm looking
notes.
at my list, but I kind of okay. So now I think we're ready to talk about what do we want out of all this stuff that we're doing. I mean, right now we're growing a lot of food. The gardens look really terrific. We have been learning a lot about sunchokes, and I think that there's two important things I think we've learned in the last year. Sunchokes can be harvested 11 months out of the year. I think it's mid-June to mid-July that they're not so great for harvest.
I haven't looked at them this month at all because I knew that June is when they all get all shriveled up and soft and raisiny. Yeah, that's no good. That's weird.
But they can be harvested in January, February, March, April, May.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, no problem.
Amazing.
And it's like, and then they're so prolific. Any place where we've gone and we've harvested them out to nothing. Like I looked at your gamcod plot from last year. We gutted it. We cleared them out, and they're still coming back like crazy.
There's a section I put a video together today for a gamcod update, and I was like, take a look at last year's gamcod plot. It's like we completely missed an entire batch where there's like this thicket of 5.5 or 6 foot tall stalks coming out right in the middle of the. I don't know how I missed them. I have no idea how I missed it, but there they are. And they're growing like crazy.
And then and walking onions, and and we got kale, where it's the second year this year, and they have a bazillion pods all over them. But the kale leaves are still good, and you can eat the pods too if you want. But the thing is, they're reseeding themselves, and this is what we're after. We want to create our own variety of kale that's like perennial, and we're putting in our feral garlic patch, and we're.
Oh man, I'm excited.
I think we won't have any trouble at all with tomatoes going feral, but I'm not sure we can get peppers to go feral.
I think peppers have a difficult time growing outdoors here. The temperature, the diurnal temperature swing is a bit extreme for certain types of plants, and I think peppers is a representation of one of them.
Yeah. So, all right. I would say that we're already doing really good on the food front, and we've got so many apple trees growing all over the place, and pears, and plums, so many plums. But those things have to be harvested in a narrow window, and then they have to be preserved in order for them to last. And but you know, it's there. We're getting there. But we are growing a lot of food now. But when it comes to like, what do I want? Where do I want to go? And we've had some people here, and you mentioned that one gal last year. I thought she did a great job of being the concierge. And basically, for all of our events, making sure that everybody was super comfortable, that they had, you know, everything that they wanted. Do you need another blanket? Do you want some whatever? Are you keeping cool? Did you have plenty of slushies today? Do you need more slushies? You know. And by the way, I think we've got such a rich system now for heat protocol that I think everybody's completely content to work outside on the hottest days that we have.
It's been really smooth.
Yeah. So I think we've got a great system now, but we've also had in the past some other people that have been here that have been really great at that level of nurturing others, and so as I'm sitting here thinking about what do I want, because I feel like I suck in that space a lot, and so when those other people have been here doing that, I kind of really appreciated that. Not to mention the fact that from time to time, those same people tend to be very generous to me with their time and you know, the nurturing thing, like, hey, you know, Paul, do you want some of this? You want some of that? You know, and it's like, oh, that is so lovely. Thank you so much. So, as we're sitting here, we're kind of talking about what does our community look like in the future. I hope it contains a lot of those very nurturing kinds of folks that really, really love to do things for others. And to me, that's like one of the most important things for building community. And I know it's a place where I fall very short. And so I'm just saying it. I hope for a lot of that.
Yeah, I'd say. Well, speaking from experience, it's very. I'd say it's very common. I think everybody has a situation where they're not at 100%. Every day. So, and this is the point where Paul's just replenishing his drink, and I'm holding the microphone now. So, I think that when everybody has just a little pinch of that in them, the idea that they can, help lift somebody else up when they're not doing their best, that makes every day better for. I mean, I'm looking at it from the team perspective. As like
absolutely
being the boot supervisor type person. Like when there's somebody who can, and it doesn't always have to be the same person every time, but like if two people are good comrades, they're good. They have a good friendship going on. The idea that that person has my back. We have a rapport. And they can talk to me, and I understand them in a way that nobody else does, and there's that connection or that bond there that helps them get through a rough patch, whatever that may be, and it's not just like, okay, I'm going to let you, I'll be your punching bag, it's not that sort of thing. It's the idea that person is there to support you and help carry you through whatever's bringing you down, and that I think that's important. And again, it doesn't always have to be the same person every single time for everybody, because sometimes that person is going to need some assistance and help and, a little shoulder to lean on to get through a rough patch. And as long as there's somebody there for each of those people.
This podcast is continued in part 2.
Hey, this is T. Blankenship. Have you seen the new video of Wheaton Labs? It is permaculture awesomeness with all new and improved things like more rocket mass heaters, easy bake coffin, Willy Wonka, rocket cooktop 2.0, and the truly passive greenhouse. To see more, go to permies.com/tour. Again, that is permies.com/tour.